Hey y'all, I'm Teresa.
And Mark.
And we're your hosts for
Tell Me That Story,
where we tell you true stories of real life happenings.
So stick around, because you never know what you might hear.
Mark, I'm so excited about the show that we have today.
Yeah, me too. I want to break away from what we've been doing a little bit and tell some funny church stories.
Yeah, we've got some.
Yeah, we do.
I'm sure there's, if you've been to church any time, any length of time,
Yeah.
you'll have some funny ones too. I'm sure you've seen some funny stuff that's happened.
Especially if you grew up in the small country churches like we did, where
Yeah.
you can see everybody.
Yeah,
You can sit in one spot and see everybody in the church.
that's right.
So you see everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some funny stuff happen in churches.
Yep.
We're going to hit some highlights. I could tell some others that, I have some that I really don't want to tell because some people might think they're a little inappropriate. So we'll hit the high spots.
Yeah, we won't tell everything, but we got some funny ones. So
The funniest thing I ever saw happen in a church, we were with your dad when his group was singing in Denham Springs, Louisiana,
yeah.
in a little backwoods church. We actually talked about this church on one of our other podcasts. We called it the Hugging Church because it's the place where everybody wanted to hug you.
Yeah, it was like over the top hugging you, like uncomfortable hugging you.
Yeah. Well, they had their singing, and after the singing, they had dinner on the grounds, as we used to call it back in the country. And of course, it wasn't on the grounds; it was in the fellowship hall.
Yeah, that's just what you called it.
Right, but we all went back to eat after service, and the guy that played bass guitar in your dad's group, he was really shy.
Yeah.
He didn't have problems standing up there playing the bass, but don't expect him to talk or say anything because he just wasn't going to do it.
Yeah, when they would introduce him, he would just turn, blood red.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was really, really shy. Well, we were back in the back eating, and he had piled his plate, a big pile of banana pudding.
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do, when you go to a place like that,
You never know what you're going to get.
you don't know what you're going to get.
Just because you like banana pudding don't mean that you're going to like it that time.
Exactly. And you don't just grab a big spoonful and put it in your mouth. You test it before you really dive into it.
It's kind of the same way with those deviled eggs.
Yeah. Not all deviled eggs are created equal. Yeah. And egg custard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love egg custard, but you put lemon in it, it's garbage. Anyway, he got a big pile of banana pudding, and they had those really, really thin styrofoam plates.
Yeah.
The kind that you get a big stack for $1, the really, really cheap ones. And he said, "Man, I can't eat this." He said, "This stuff's bad." I said, "Well, go over and throw it away." So I was standing, we were standing close to the trash can. So he walked over there, and there was the trash can was sitting here, and there was a pew sitting right beside it, and there was a purse sitting on this pew, and the purse was unzipped, and it was gapped wide open just like this. Nobody around it. And he went to put his plate in the garbage can, and that plate broke. And that big wad of banana pudding went directly in that purse and just went plop right down in the middle of that purse. And he looked at me, and his eyes got big, and he turned red. He said, "What do I do?" He said, "Should I reach in there and get it?" I said, "No, don't reach in there. You put your hand in there, and that woman sees you with your hand in that banana pudding, you're going to be in trouble."
With your hand in that banana pudding?
With your hand in her purse. You're going to be in trouble. I said, "Just walk away and leave it." And that's what we did. We just turned and walked away.
I remember that, and I remember that. I remember you telling me about it, and we watched it for a while. We never did see anybody come up there. We had to end up leaving and going to help load sound equipment and stuff.
Yep.
But we watched that little area for a little while. We never saw anybody come up there.
I just can't imagine what that lady was thinking when she got back and found her purse full of banana pudding.
There's no telling. There's no telling. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was funny. I'll never forget that as long as I live. When I was growing up, I had a pastor. His name was Brother Timmy. He was my pastor from the time I was just a little boy up until I was a teenager for years. and he was a friend of the family. Everybody loved him. He's one of those people I never heard a negative word spoke about him.
Yeah.
You know, everybody loved him. He was just a great guy.
He was pastoring a little town called McCall Creek,
McCall
Mississippi.
Creek. And he was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was funny. He could say some really funny stuff. And we were in church one day, and he was one of those stomping, snorting Pentecostal preachers. You know,
Spitfire. He was a Spitfire.
Yeah. And this particular service, man, he was just hammering down on it.
It was exciting.
And his top plate, his denture shot out of his mouth. And it bounced off the pulpit and hit the communion table and bounced off of it and landed on the floor and just slid on that old hardwood floor. And by the time it got stopped, he was down there.
Yeah.
And he just picked it up and stuck it back in his mouth and didn't clean it off and just stuck it back in his mouth and kept right on going, never missed a beat. Of course, he was done because everybody was laughing at that point. I don't remember what point he was trying to make, but anything he said past that point was wasted breath.
Boy, that's funny that you don't remember the sermon, but remember his teeth falling out.
I remember his teeth falling out, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
No, they didn't just fall out. They projectile shot out.
Oh, Lord. Hey, Mark, I remember a time, and I hadn't talked to you about this in a long time, but I won't get too detailed into it because it might be a little bit disgusting, but we were sitting there in a church and the preacher sneezed.
Oh, good Lord. That's one that I wasn't going to tell.
It was so bad. It was so bad. He didn't know that his chin was a mess and stuff was just...
it was hanging off his chin.
It was just jiggling.
And, of course, all the kids in that church, the youth group, sat on the front row.
Yeah, and they were falling out laughing, and he was getting so upset because
he didn't know what they were laughing at.
They were laughing, and then when he finally realized, he was like, well, why didn't y'all tell me? We'll move on.
Yeah, that was one I was going to omit, but since you went there.
Okay. I couldn't help it. It was just playing over and over and over in my mind.
We went to a church one time down in Ellisville, Mississippi.
Okay.
And we went to that church several times, and it seemed like every time we went there, either something crazy, weird would happen, or something funny would happen.
I know exactly what church you're talking about. Every single time we went, it was something extremely weird or something very, very funny, which was still weird.
Yeah. Well, this particular time, we were up there singing, and in this church, when you're standing on the stage looking down the center aisle, you got the center aisle with the pews on both sides. At the back of the church, there's a double door, and there's a nursery.
Yeah.
And we're up here singing, and all of a sudden that nursery door swings open, and here comes a little boy about 3 years old.
Yeah.
As naked as the day he was born.
That's right.
Running down the center aisle with his mama chasing right behind him, and he was just laughing. He was having he was having a ball.
That was hilarious.
And I think she finally caught him when he got up to the front. Mm-hmm. And
we were trying to sing.
And it's kind of hard to sing when there's a naked baby running around in front of you. And we were there another time.
Oh yeah, there was another time we were there, and there was this guy that came in, and he had on jogging pants. Mm-hmm. But the weird thing was, you'd think, okay, well, it's not, there's nothing wrong with that. He's got jogging pants on, but he had boxer shorts on top of his light gray jogging pants.
Yeah.
I'll never forget those jogging pants. He had those boxer shorts on top of those gray jogging pants. And me and Christy, we were standing there and we were trying to finish, getting our table set up and things like that. And he came in and he grabbed a hold of one of our CDs that we had on the table. We were selling CDs and we were selling some candles and stuff. And so he grabbed that CD, ripped the cellophane right off of it, and just starts fumbling with it.
Just frantic.
It was just like frantic and like he was just a nervous wreck, and he opened that up and that CD just kind of flew out of there and he was like, "What is this?" like that. Well, I just got it. I just closed it. I said, it's one of our CDs, and it's a gift for you.
Yeah, you can have it.
And you can have it. Oh, Lord.
Well,
that same day, Mark. Okay, so that was before service.
Yeah.
And then we had lunch.
Yeah.
And then we came back after lunch.
And we sang after lunch.
And we sang.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you saw what he did then.
Yeah, the last song that we did, it was a fast song.
Yeah.
And thank God it was the last song because I was done after this.
Oh, yeah.
We were singing this song, and everybody was standing up on their feet, and they were clapping with the song, And this guy, he was back there, and he was dancing.
Yeah.
And I'm zeroed in on him. I'm watching him,
You're zoned in.
And Michael was running sound at the back, and he was just about to fall out of his chair laughing.
Yeah.
Well, this guy, he was dancing, but all of a sudden he disappeared down behind the crowd. He bent down, and when he came back up, he had those boxer shorts in his hand, and he was swinging them like a lasso over his head.
Oh, God.
And I just lost it at that point. It was... Thank God it was close to the end of our last song because after that it was done.
It was done.
It was done.
It was done. It was done. That was wild. It was always something going on over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that church, there was a mental hospital right down the road.
Yeah.
And I think they would let them out. Their families could pick them up, bring them to church. And I'm not making fun of the people. It was just something funny that happened.
Sure.
It was, I think everybody got a good laugh out of it. And it's okay to laugh every now and then.
Yeah. And you're not laughing making fun of them. You're just,
you're laughing because it's funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. It was crazy. That was one of those places that when we'd get booked there, I was like, well, I wonder what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
I wonder what's going to happen this time.
I know I used to work at a long-term care facility, and I worked in memory care. And, there were some things that they would do that would be funny.
Yeah.
And you weren't laughing, making fun of them. You were just, it was something that they would do, and it would just be a funny thing, and you just, you had to learn to laugh with them.
You're right.
Right. Or, you could just you could get yourself in depression and stuff like that. You got to learn to laugh. Laughter's a good medicine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you remember Keith Rutland?
I do. I remember Keith. He sang with another singing group, and we used to do a whole lot of singings together with that other group.
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me think of the name of their group at the time right now, but I remember Keith. He'll forever be etched in my mind, I believe, because he was such a character.
It was Keith Rutland, James Barnett,
Yeah.
and Royce Renfro.
Yeah, yeah.
And the lady, I can't think of her name,
Yeah.
but we did a lot of singings with those guys, and
Yeah.
they were great.
They were fun.
They
to
were
sing
so
with.
fun to be around. But Keith was a nut.
He was.
Keith
a
could have
character.
been a stand-up comedian.
I think so.
He was just hilarious.
Yeah.
We were singing in this church. It is his home church. It was Divide Methodist Church in Monticello, Mississippi.
Yeah, I think it was Methodist Protestant.
Methodist Protestant, yeah. And at the back of the church, they had swinging wooden doors.
Right? Yeah.
And then there was a foyer, a glass foyer, and they had glass doors. Well, when you would open the glass door, it would create a suction in the foyer, and it would make those wooden doors swing open.
Yeah.
Well, Keith got up, and we were doing a fast song, and Keith got up, and he went out those wooden doors into the foyer. And when he pulled the glass door open, it sucked the wooden doors open, and he was standing there holding that door, and he was dancing. I'm talking about cutting a rug. Right in there, right by himself. And I thought, what in the world is this nut doing?
He was having a good time.
Oh, and I don't mean dancing a little bit. I'm talking about he was dancing,
like
dancing.
boogieing down.
Yeah.
Like dancing hard, boogieing down. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he's a nut.
Yeah. He was funny, though.
If this ever Keith, if you ever see this on, I'm telling you, I love you, but you're crazy.
I remember when we went to, when we got married at a church called Bird's Chapel.
Yeah.
And there was some stuff that happened there. One of the things that happened was we had revival with an evangelist, and his name was Brother Stanley Owensby. Brother Stanley Owensby, everybody thought that he looked like Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, he looked a lot like him.
You can actually still find him on Facebook. I mean, he does some Facebook lives still every week.
Yeah.
And his wife's name is Nita.
Yep.
And but anyhow, he could throw down on a lead guitar.
Oh yeah.
And
loud.
oh yeah, it was awesome. He always had a dark tan. He was like, I think he had some
Native American blood. Yeah.
right in him, and so he was holding a revival, and everybody wanted to come when he was there. I mean, it would pack the place out.
Yeah.
And so this particular night, there was a lot of people that he was praying for across the front of the church, and there was this elderly man, and he was standing there, and Brother Stan was going to pray for him, and he walked up to him, and he's like, he's praying for him, and he goes, "Raise your hands, brother," and he didn't. And I think he told him, again, he still did. Brother Stan, what Brother Stan didn't see was the little old man was holding the top of his pants.
Yeah.
And that's why he wasn't raising his hand. And so Brother Stan didn't see that, and he grabbed a hold of his wrist or his hands or whatever, and about that third time, and jerked him up in the air. And when he did, that little man's pants just pulled in a pool around his ankles.
Yep.
I mean, it was over for me.
All the way to the floor.
Yeah, it was all the way to the floor. And I was like, he's going to have a hard time. I'm going to be surprised if he comes back. But he came back the very next night.
Yeah.
He was there the very next night.
So always wear a belt.
Yeah, wear a
or
belt.
Suspenders.
There you go.
Yeah, or pants that fit. I remember his pants looked like they were way too big for him.
Yeah, it was so funny then at the time, but you felt sorry for him too.
I did. I felt sorry for him, but
did.
you couldn't help but laugh about it, you know.
Yeah, but I was thinking, there's no way he's not going to come back. But he was there the next night.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think it bothered him a whole lot.
I don't remember if he had a belt and suspenders on the next night or not, but he was there. That's funny.
Well, I bet he didn't go down for prayer the next night.
I don't remember. But you know, that same church, we had, there were some more things that took place. I know that we were newly married, and we ended up keeping your cousin's baby. And the baby was like, I'm going to say it was like 3 months old. I was just shocked that they let us keep a 3-month-old baby, and we didn't have any kids.
Yeah, we didn't know nothing about no baby.
We didn't know anything about babies. We like babies, but we didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
And that baby cried all night, didn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to do everything that we could. We just tried everything that we needed to do, and it just cried. Probably missing its mama, you know. But anyhow, of course, it stayed up all night, and we stayed up all night, so... But we were able to get ourselves dressed and go to church the next morning at Bird's Chapel.
Yep.
And we were sitting on the very back pew. We sat back there, I guess, because in case of the baby, needing to take the baby out. And we're sitting back there, and we're trying to keep awake. And all of a sudden, it was a very narrow church. It had a long aisle. It was a long center aisle up to the front. And this lady came through the back door, and she had toilet paper stuck on the bottom of her high heel shoe, and then she had the bottom of her dress stuck up in the top of her pantyhose, and she walked all the way down that center aisle and sat on the second pew.
In front of everybody.
In front of everybody. We were awake then.
Yep, just shining everybody.
Yeah.
Poor lady.
I know.
Bless her heart.
I don't remember who it was, but I just remember the whole backside.
I think I saw that a couple of times while we were there.
Oh, gosh. And then we went to a church called Bude, Mississippi, and we were standing in the choir. We were standing in the choir, and there was this lady that came out from Sunday school, and the choir would start singing, and then people would come out. You know, it's like they were marching out of Sunday school to go sit in the audience.
Yeah.
And the same thing pretty much happened to that lady. I mean, she walked in front of the whole choir, and she had the bottom of her dress stuck up in the top of her pantyhose, and she walked down that center aisle. The whole choir saw that backside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Always check.
Please check. Look, I'm going to triple check. I triple check.
That's as bad as being on stage singing and wondering if you remembered to zip your pants, but you're too embarrassed to look down or check. That's always been a phobia of mine. I always had a fear of being up there
and your pants are not zipped.
Pants not being zipped.
You know,
I don't know that it's ever happened, but I've always worried about it.
Wondering, there were some other things that happened in that church, but it had to do with my daddy.
Yeah. When he was a kid.
Yeah.
Him and his brothers were little juvenile delinquents.
Not really.
Not really.
They were just mischievous.
They would have been if they'd have got caught. They were very mischievous.
Yeah, my daddy's daddy died when my daddy was 2 years old, and it was a whole bunch of boys and one girl in the family.
Yeah, and they were very mischievous. He told me this story, and he can't hardly tell the story. He laughs so hard. He said there was this old man that used to sit in front of them, and every Sunday he would go to sleep. And when he'd go to sleep, his head would go back like this. And his mouth would open, wide open, and he'd snore. And they found some quinine tablets somewhere. And if you don't know what quinine is, it's what people take for leg cramps. And quinine tablets are tiny little things, but they're extremely bitter. Extremely bitter. Yeah. So they took the quinine tablet to church, and when this man went to sleep and his mouth opened, they reached up and dropped that quinine tablet in his mouth. In a few minutes, he woke up, and he jumped up and he hollered, "Oh, preacher, you're going to have to pray for me." He said, "I think my gallbladder's done busted."
Oh, man. He had a terrible taste in his mouth, didn't he?
Yeah, and he said there was another guy that would go to sleep and his head would go forward. Mm-hmm. And they were sitting behind him one day, and he said he had just got a fresh haircut and his neck was all clean and slick, And he had his head down and that neck was just shining. And there was a red wasp crawling on the pew, and they reached and grabbed that wasp and eased up there and just set it on the back of his neck, and it stung the guy. Mm. He said he almost tore that pew up. Yeah, getting up away from there.
We were talking about horseflies and stuff in those little old churches. Red wasp was just as bad.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed like it was just as bad.
Yeah, all those old buildings in the summertime would just be full of horseflies and wasps.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, did you have we told the story? Because we've told it so many times. Actually, here lately, we've talked about it a lot. But have we told the story about the guy that you worked with in Brookhaven, Mississippi?
Excuse me. Yes. I worked with a guy that was a pastor, and he was kind of like Keith Rutland. This guy was a nut. He was funny. He was always telling jokes, and he told this story, and I thought he was joking, but then I asked some of the people that went to church with him, and they said, "Yeah, it's a fact. It really happened." Well, he had a stomach virus, and he couldn't find anybody to fill in for him, so he had to go and preach with a stomach virus. And if you ever had a bad stomach virus, you know what it's like.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, it's terrible. I honestly think I'd rather have the flu for a week than have a 24-hour stomach virus. It's awful. Well, he's up here preaching, and all of a sudden it hits him, and he's like, "Y'all gonna have to give me a minute. I'll be back." Y'all, I think they said, somebody play something on the piano or somebody sing a song or something. I'll be back in a minute. So he goes to the bathroom, and when he comes back out, everybody's just laughing, and everything just fell apart, And he looked down at his deacon sitting on the front row, and he kind of
like what?
And his deacon pointed, and he had forgot to turn his lapel mic off. Yeah, he forgot to turn his lapel mic off, and it just came through all the speakers. They heard everything.
Oh, no.
Of course, you would have thought that the sound man would have muted the mic, but in a lot of those little churches, they don't have a sound man. They turn it on and put it on autopilot and let it go, But he probably never lived that down.
I wouldn't think so. Not at all.
I don't know if I could have even come back the next Sunday.
Oh, Lord, I know it would have had to be hard. I think I got one more story, unless you have something else, but I was sitting thinking about that. I had a cousin, and she got sick one Sunday morning. And during church, and she turned her head towards her mom, and when she did,
I remember that.
She projectile vomited at her mama's head and her hair. just separated. It was just like hair here and hair there. And I got up to try to go and I went and grabbed a trash can, and I grabbed a whole thing of paper towels.
I remember
And
that.
I know
was
that
terrible.
it shouldn't have been funny, but it was. It was absolutely funny. And I was trying to help clean it up, but just,
Yeah, that was terrible.
not be sick too myself. But anyhow, laughter's good medicine.
Yeah, I got one more story. My dad, my dad was funny. He was kind of like Brother Timmy. He was one of those people that everybody loved, and he was always making jokes and funny. My dad had a flip phone.
Yeah.
He never got a smartphone. But he would sit around fiddling with that phone all the time, and every time I'd see him, he was like, I need you to fix my phone. I'm like, Daddy, if you would leave it alone,
I know. I remember.
it wouldn't get messed up. But he was always messing with it. I don't know what he was trying to do.
I guess figure it out.
I mean, there's not a lot you can do with a flip phone, but he was constantly messing with it, getting everything messed up. Well, somehow he got the ringtone on his phone, the song "Bad to the Bone."
Yeah.
You know the song,
Oh, yeah.
"Bad to the Bone."
Mm-hmm.
And we were in church one Sunday. We just happened to be there this particular Sunday, and the pastor was up. He was preaching about, I think he was preaching about Samson, if I remember right. And just the time he said the word Samson, my dad's phone went bad to the bone
At the right time.
just at the perfect time. And the
That's
pastor
right.
said, "Yep, Samson was bad to the bone." Of course, Daddy, he's mashing every button except the right button, trying to
get
turn it off,
Yeah.
and he can't figure out how to turn it off, and it's just playing over and over and over and over. He finally got it turned off, but that was funny. Of course, my daddy, it didn't bother him a bit. He made a big joke out of it,
I know. He was funny.
Oh, Lord. I've seen some funny stuff in churches.
I have too. And I'm sure you've seen some funny things too. If you go to church, especially if you go to one of those little country churches, I'm sure you've got some stories that you can tell too. So we hope that you've enjoyed something that we've had to say. We hope it's given you a smile or given you a laugh. And just send us a message. You can probably comment on the platform that you're listening to. If you can like or share, then do that for us, and comment. And there's some places that you can actually rate and review the show.
Yeah, some of the podcast players have a rate and review button.
Mm-hmm.
If you're listening on or watching on YouTube, you can like and subscribe. Do that. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It moves us up in the algorithm so we can reach more people. It just gets us out there to more people.
There's just so much negative stuff that's going on nowadays, and we just thought we would just do a little show that would, hopefully give somebody a smile or, make them laugh a little bit, chuckle a little bit.
Yep, like you said, laughter's great medicine.
I know. So we got some people that tell us that they listen while they drive in the tractor on the weekends and all kinds of stuff. So we love to hear when y'all are listening and what you're liking. So
Yep.
y'all go ahead and send us that message and let us hear some of your funny church stories. We would love to share them. And if you've got enough of them, you might want to come on the podcast sometime.
Yeah.
We might can have a guest.
Be a guest on the podcast. That'd be great.
Yeah, we've got a guest that we just had, and we've got some more lined up. So we look forward to sharing those with y'all. So y'all be sure to stay tuned.
God bless y'all. Y'all come to see us next time on Tell Me That Story, and we'll see you later.